Conrad, welcome to my kitchen. We're gonna make us some sauce today, buddy. Remember how to do sauce? Remember how we used to do it at the restaurant? Yeah, we had 6 of those number 10 cans over there, and we put them in this big pan over there, and then we cooked them things off for a couple of hours. But you know, that doesn't work for the family. That's just a bit too much for just you and your son. So anyway, we're gonna do this simple little sauce recipe over here, and it's real simple. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of oil in the pan, at the bottom of the pan, and I'm using olive oil. You could use some other kind of oil, other kind of oil if you wanted. The only one I wouldn't recommend using is peanut oil, but you know, vegetable oil would be fine, or the corn oil. So anyway, we're going to let this warm up a little bit, and then what we're going to do, I mean, the recipe that I'm going to give you, I'm going to use meat in there. Now, I'm going to be using, oh baby, this thing is heating up already. This is heating up high. Okay, I see, I don't like this burner. Okay, we're going to put some onions. Is it still going?
Yes, it's still going.
Well, you know, this is, okay. We're going to put some onions in there. And we're just going to sweat the onions. Now, you're going to start either way. I'm going to give you like the same recipe you could use also with vegetables. Instead of making a meat sauce, you could use like a vegetable sauce too. And we like to use pork. And that's what we use at the restaurant. And we use ground pork that would come from the shoulder or pork butts. We add it coarsely ground. It gives a pretty good, you put a little bit of garlic in there, chopped garlic. And it's starting to sweat pretty good. Put the lid on it for a little bit. I won't take that off. Okay, so now the onions are pretty well sweated out, as you can see. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to add 1 pound of pork in there. You could also put ground beef in there if you wanted to, turkey. If you want to do vegetarian style, what you could do is just put some carrots, eggplant, celery, green pepper. And what you would do on that is you kind of put it in your food processor and just don't chop it up real fine, but just kind of coarse in place of the sausage over here. Now, so okay, we're just going to let that cook a little bit, and then we're going to add some spices to it. Okay, now we're going to put some spices in here, and we're going to put basically about a teaspoon of fennel seed. Remember that? We used to put it in the sausage at the restaurant. And we're going to put about a half a teaspoon of just some black pepper as well. You can see how I'm measuring real accurate there. And we're going to put a little bit of red pepper flakes just to give it a little bit of spice. Now, if you were doing, you know, the vegetable version that I mentioned, use the same spices because it will give it a nice little taste. And the same thing with the salt. Just put a little bit of, about a tablespoon of salt on it. You might have to add a little bit more as you're cooking. And then stir it real good. And at this point, what you want to do too, see how the meat is starting to cook and stuff? What you want to do is add a little bit of liquid. And the liquid that I like to add about this time is a little bit of wine. We didn't do that at the restaurant, but this gives it a little bit of flavor too. And you know, you can't put too much because it'll just evaporate too much anyway. But just let that simmer for a little bit. And this is getting real close to about the next step. Okay, you're going to need some tomato products. I don't know what you guys have available over there, But this is about a 28-ounce can of, they call it tomato puree. But what you can also use, you could use like, the best tomatoes are actually the Roma tomatoes, and or a nice plum tomato. I don't know what you get. I mean, you could get fresh tomatoes. You just boil them a little bit, peel the skin off, and then remove the seeds and stuff, and just get to the pulp stuff, the heavy pulp stuff, and you'd end up with a product pretty close to that. Now, if you guys can get canned stuff over there, that's fine. You use that. If not, you can use your own tomatoes. But you're going to need some tomato paste. And at this particular point, you need to add. These are the little. I don't know. They got 6 ounce. So there's like 12 ounces of tomato paste we're going to put in there. But what we're going to do is you put the tomato paste in there before this thing is even cooked all the way, before you put the rest of the tomato products in there. And the reason for that is it gives it a more tomatoey flavor. And so what I do is I put about a can of one of these in here. Now, if you were doing that vegetarian one that I was talking about, do the same thing. After, you got those veggies cooking over there, then put about one of these cans of tomato paste over there. And this will help impart that tomatoey flavor before you get it going there. So you just mix this in there, and see, there's enough liquid over there between the wine and just liquid from the pork and the mushrooms. There's enough in there. Now, if it's too dry, you want to add a little bit more liquid. You put a little bit more wine, or just put a dab of water in there, because if it gets too dry, it's going to burn on the pan over there. But anyway, this is what you want. You want this kind of consistency there with the tomato paste. And you just want that to simmer for a couple of minutes, and then you're going to add more tomatoes in the other can of tomato paste. Now, at this point, this is what you want. See how that's nice and imparted that flavor in there? So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the rest of the tomato products. And now this particular brand that I like over here, it's called Cento. I don't know. It's owned by some Italians. It's over here in the States. Yeah, I don't know what you guys have available. You might have some Italian stuff over there too. I don't know what you got. But anyway, whatever, get a good tomato product. And then, stir that in there. Get it going pretty good. And we're going to add the other can of tomato paste. And then we're going to have to add some water. And I'm going to actually add some more wine too. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of wine right now. It doesn't hurt adding wine, Now, we're talking grape wine, okay? I know you're over there in the Orient and stuff. You don't want to use no rice wine or some stuff that they use over there. And some French wine is good too, Anyway, it doesn't matter. Kind of a dry wine, just a cheap wine is good for cooking on this anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to get the tomato paste, the rest of the tomato paste out. And as you can see, this is kind of like about the thickness of what we had at the restaurant we used to use. And it's going to have a lot of flavor, but it's going to take about a good hour to an hour and a half for this thing to simmer. And you just let it simmer real slowly, and then impart all those flavors in there. Now you could also use, I didn't put, at the restaurant we used to use basil, dried basil. You could put that in there too. My wife's got fresh basil. I don't want to go outside and get it, I'm too lazy. But anyway, you can add some other things in there too. You could add oregano if you like oregano. I'm not a big fan of oregano personally. Well, I gotta speed up on my talking. Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
Louder.
Oh, louder. Okay, I'm sorry. My director over here is telling me I don't talk loud enough. I go by, this isn't an exact science. I know it isn't the right thickness yet, but I know what it's got to be like. And you need to mix it. This is still going to need a little bit more water. Let it mix some more. I'm going to add a little bit more salt at this And salt and pepper at this particular stage too. I need a whole bunch. And I'm using sea salt, but you could use, you know, whatever you guys got over there. Yeah, that should be pretty good. And then you can do it according to, yeah, I need some more water in here. And then we'll be ready in just a second. Yeah, that's about. Yeah, that's about. I think you remember, you know, what the thickness of our sauce was. That's the consistency that you want to get, okay? You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too runny. So this is getting to about the right kind of consistency that we want. And this will be fine. So now all we're going to do is just, you're going to have to stir this occasionally so it doesn't burn, but you need to really let it simmer for about an hour, hour and a half, just at a very slow simmer, like I said. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do, while the sauce is on top of the stove over there simmering, we're going to make some homemade pasta. Now this is new, you're not familiar with that. So what we're going to have is, it's a real simple recipe. If you got one of these babies, it helps. It's a lot quicker. If not, you can also do it by hand. It's not really hard. You need 1 cup of regular flour, 1 cup of durum flour. Now durum flour is also called 00 flour. It's like finely ground anyway, and it's healthy and all that kind of stuff for you. But those two things, if you can't get the durum flour, just use the regular flour. Like I say, everything except, I wouldn't use that rice flour you guys got over there. You also need like 2 eggs, 2 or 3?
1 tablespoon of olive oil. That's olive oil.
Yeah, this is the olive oil over here. Okay, 1 tablespoon of olive oil and
3 teaspoons of water.
And 3 teaspoons of water. Okay, we put it all in a bowl, let it mix on slow, and then you're ready to go. Okay, here we go. We're gonna put some durum flour, cup of durum, cup of regular flour, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of olive oil. The table. Okay, my director says it's table. Anyway, and 3 water. Okay, so crank the thing up. And then you just mix it just real quickly. This is KitchenAid's recipe on here. Okay. And then you have to change the dough hook, lower it down. I don't know why they do this, but it seems to work. As you can see, I mean, right now, if you were doing this by hand, crank it up and then, okay. And it just kind of mixes into a ball, kind of like real similar like when you go with the rest. Okay, this is the consistency that you want. As you can see, it's like a little ball. So we're going to turn off the mixer now. Get this out. And here we go. We got a nice little ball. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in quarters. And just let this dough rest. I'm just going to go like this and I'll show you the quarters here. Anyway, that one ball, what we did is we cut it up into like 4, and then you just kind of flatten it out to 4 little balls. And then what you do is you take a towel or something and you just put it over it and you just let it rest for about a half hour or so. and it'll rise a little bit, not as much as dough, but it rises a little bit, and then it'll be ready for us to cut it into the different shapes. Okay, now, our sauce has been like, about an hour or so. See, it's just simmering just a little late, and I've been stirring about every 10 minutes or so. You need to stir it so it doesn't stick. So, the sauce is basically done, but we'll just leave it up here some more. And what I did is I also got a pan of water going. Got some water going, so all we have to do is make our pasta now, and it'll be ready to eat. Okay, our pasta is rested. It's been resting for a while. What we do is, this is just the roller attachment to the machine. You can also get those crank ones, do it yourself. Now I have it at the highest opening that we have on here, and what we're going to do is we're going to run them through and then put them over here just temporarily to dry. Okay, at this point we just ran it through twice. What we do now is we cut this in half because of the fact that we're going to go to another lower setting. It's going to be too much of it, way too long on it. So we're just going to put these, they say split them in half, and then we're going to go through the machine again. Ooh. 10-minute rule. No, it's 10 seconds, isn't it?
In all actuality, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's going to go in hot water, right? Okay.
No, that's not what I mean, but
You could always edit that out, right?
Sure, if I figure out...
Producer?
As soon as I learn how to edit, I can edit that out.
Ah, okay. That's my son, Conrad. He's going to be a senior at Goodrich High School this year. He's going to be graduating. And he's thinking of possibly going to Michigan State. Your alma mater, 2 alma maters there. So, we're going to go on.
Another lower setting again, and we're going to be pretty much set. This stuff is just so much better than the stuff you buy at the store. Dry pasta. We used to make it with the rest of the room. The rest of the room we didn't work at, but all the pasta's over there. Huh? Oh, right, okay. You won't be able to hear you over the camera. I mean, the mixer thing. Anyway, it doesn't take very long or very much time to do, as you can see.
Now, we need to let it dry just a little bit. It's not that. It's a little cakey, but it's not bad. We got our water going, so we can actually just. You want to just cut it and just put it in there and go for it? Alright, so now we're going to let this dry just for a little bit. We'll turn this off, and we're going to change the dyes on here, and then we'll be ready to make homemade spaghetti. So now we got our spaghetti dye on here. There it is. Spaghetti. You just dump it right in the water. You have to work pretty fast because we're not letting it dry. You can actually let it dry, which is what we normally do. But today I have a hook it up. Just going to go right from the machine into the water, which is as fresh as you can get. So now you saw how quickly that was. I mean, we actually, what you can also do is just put when it comes out of here, you put it on these racks, you can let it dry. Once it's dry, it's good, you know, like for a couple of weeks if you wanted to. But we just cooked the thing off real quick and, because we're all hungry. So, but this doesn't take very long to cook over here. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, see how it just floats to the top? As soon as it floats to the top, this is basically ready. So what we're going to do, we're just going to just for a little bit more, and I got a sink over here. And I'm going to cut away to the sink, and we'll just strain it and put our sauce, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so we're just going to strain the pasta. And that's ready to go. Kind of ladle in here. So we'll put some sauce. Put some sauce at the bottom of the pan, sauce on the top. Now, you know, like I say, we had the pork over here, but you could have used the veggies. And then just mix it. As you can see, it mixes real good. And it's going to be some of the best pasta you ever had. And that's pretty much it, Conrad. So I hope this helps you in making some nice pasta with your son. I taught my son how to make this thing, and you can pass on our tradition to your family. And from our family to your family, enjoy your pasta recipe. And I hope to see you. I'm going to come over there and see you. I don't know, are you in Singapore or someplace else? Because I've been to Singapore and I love Singapore. It's a beautiful town. Anyway, we'll see you soon.